Welcome back to the channel, Helldivers. Today we are covering the last faction when it comes to a new player loadout, and that is up against the Automatons, the bots. And TLDR, every Helldiver has their least favorite faction, and well, this is my least favorite. Now, why are the Automatons my least favorite faction? Well, it mostly has to do with how many times they can ragdoll you. I feel like they're pretty relentless in that, but we will find a way to basically mitigate that. In addition to this loadout in this video, we will talk at the end about the new Warbond that is coming out next week, because this is, again, the last video as far as like new player loadouts, and we're going to return to doing more thematic, viable builds. So if that sounds like your cup of tea or liberty, consider hitting that like button and let's get started. Now, when it comes to your loadout, first we got to talk about our equipment and our primary weapons. This is going to be more of a marksman rifle, kind of like a sniper loadout. If you haven't tried out the Diligence or the Diligence counter sniper against the bots, I highly recommend it. Especially the Diligence. Get used to hitting those crit spots on the bots, all the chaff. It's usually just those red skulls. The Diligence here puts them down really efficiently. It's a very snappy weapon. But if you want a little bit more, I would say, forgiveness, and then again that medium penetration, I'd go with the counter sniper. A couple of drawbacks as far as the ammo economy and the ergonomics, but it's still really good. Both of these weapons are I highly recommend. But if you don't like those DMRs or the marksman rifles, something like the Liberator Penetrator and the base Liberator, those are going to work just fine. Now, if you do have, I would say, a couple Warbonds under your belt, or you're further along in the free Warbond, the Scorcher here, the Purifier from Polar Patriots, and then the Plasma Punisher, or hell, even we'll talk about the Exploding Crossbow and the Eruptor, because they kind of fall under the same umbrella, where the most annoying unit when it comes to the bots, as far as the chaff, are the Devastators with the shields, at least in my opinion. And these explosive and these energy-based weapons will bypass that shield, making it really easy to take them down without a lot of fuss. So again, if you have some of those Warbonds, I recommend those, but if you are just like a fresh new player, try out the marksman rifles. Now, really quick, when it comes to your secondary weapon, the Redeemer for new players is just going to be the way to go as far as just easy to use, and it's going to be efficient. I do like the Peacemaker, but with the armor of the bots, I don't think I'd recommend that if you already have the Redeemer. Now, if you're a little bit further along, have a couple Warbonds under your belt, the Grenade Pistol is just going to be the absolute GOAT, because just like what we talked about with the primary weapons with explosives, you can use this to deal with some of the chaff still and bypass those shields on those Devastators, but also you can take out Fabricators by just shooting it into those vents. The Grenade Pistol is, I think it's like S tier when it comes to the bots. That and something like the Talon, but again, for new players, you're probably not going to have, I would say, the Talon and the Grenade Pistol at the same time, because those are two different Warbonds that you have to work through. But again, Redeemer, you're going to be just fine. Now, when it comes to your throwable, the main purpose for your throwable against the bots is going to be closing up those Fabricators and throwing them into, I would say, dropship packs or like patrols. And the grenade actually works out really well, because the Automatons, not too many of them are actually very mobile. They're a little bit more stationary. So throwing a good frag grenade, or even hell, if you even want to use a high explosive one, going to be really easy, really efficient, especially more efficient than I'd say against the other two factions, because they're a little bit more speedy. They have a little bit more mobility and start like trying to swarm you, where the bots really just have the berserkers that you need to watch out for. But the regular grenades here, they're really good against the bots. Now, when it comes to your armor, we usually just say, you know, pick what you want as far as the fashion, but against the Automatons here, because they're not very mobile, I love taking heavy armor against them, especially fortified. You get this very early on in the first Warbond, and the main reason I like this is because of that explosive resistance. The bots can be relentless when they're just shooting you across the map and you're getting ragdolled around. Heavy armor plus that explosive resistance, gonna keep you alive and really safe. So I really recommend the fortified and the heavy armor when it comes to the bots. And when it comes to boosters, guys, you should always just pick what your team needs. There's just always just a few staples that everybody uses, and you should know them by now. It's vitality, stamina, muscle enhancement is good. Optimization, this is also very handy. Just stick with the bread and butter. It's not too complicated when it comes to boosters. Moving on to our stratagems, we get to talk about some fun stuff here now. I would go, as far as your stratagem weapon, with the anti-material rifle. This caught a buff a couple patches ago, maybe last patch, but this thing feels amazing against the bots because their crit spots are very apparent. It's either the vents or their skulls, and this thing will put them down. The only thing you really can't use this thing for is destroying like fabricators or dropships, but gunships, yes, this thing will handle. I highly recommend taking the anti-material rifle. Really good. And what you want to pair the anti-material rifle with is either a jump pack. You could go with the jump pack, but that's going to be a little bit later on as far as when you first are unlocking stratagems. So maybe not that, but easy pickup here is the supply pack. This just keeps you going. You're already going to be very tanky because of the heavy armor we're taking, and you'll just be able to rip shots after shots and be very, I would say, self-sufficient with the supply pack. Really good against the bots. Now, when it comes to your last 2 slots for your stratagem, I would take one of the Eagle airstrikes. Now, either the strafe and run, the regular Eagle airstrike, or the 500 kg, depending on what you have unlocked. Now, note, you can fight the bots on mega cities, and I do not recommend taking the regular Eagle airstrike on the mega city maps because just of the tall buildings, and the Eagle airstrike here, it goes perpendicular to your Helldiver when you throw it, and it just gets caught on buildings all the time. Whereas the strafe and run and then the 500 kg, it's going to be parallel to your Helldiver, making it really easy to throw these. So take one of these Eagles, try them out, see which one you like the best. The strafe and run is kind of like always my go-to because even against something like a factory strider, you can just continually throw strafe and run after strafe and run and just whittle that sucker down. Now, when it comes to your last slot for your stratagem picks here, I usually don't talk a lot about the orbital barrages because I just like consistency with my stratagems. And I feel like these, either the 120 or the 380, they're not consistent against the other factions. More so the bugs because of their burrows and it's like on the low ground. But against the bots, I do recommend taking one of these orbitals, either these 2 or the walking barrage 2. Can be really handy. It's really satisfying to pinpoint one of these in the middle of one of their bases and just have it take out the entire thing and clear like a heavy outpost. Feels really good. Another recommendation that I really like taking against the bots is actually the orbital gas. Now, aesthetically speaking, this does not like do anything for like a theme or for like a theme for a build because gas against metal robots, again, it doesn't work for me as far as like an eyeball test. But actually in practice in game, gas works extremely well against the bots. I guess the gas could be like corrosive, but when it disorients them, stops packs, again, they don't move around a lot, so they kind of just sit in the gas. And it's really handy as far as a crowd control stratagem. Now, I know aesthetically maybe the gas isn't the first thing that would come to mind, but trust me guys, it works really well, and it'll also do building damage, so you could throw this on top of a fabricator and it's going to destroy it as well. Now, how does this loadout play out? What's kind of like the overview of it? Well, we talked about the primary weapon being one of those marksman rifles, either the diligence or the counter sniper. Gameplay wise, you're probably going to see me using the diligence because, again, this thing is powerful enough to 1 or 2 tap all of their chaff units, and again, that's what you want in a primary weapon. Now, unfortunately, secondary, if you're taking either the Redeemer or the Peacemaker, it's not going to be pulling its weight against those Devastators, but it's going to be just fine against Troopers, which is what you should probably be using that for. But because we're taking another a support weapon as far as the AMR, which also you can use to take out chaff, your secondary, not going to be that important. Your grenades can either be used to support your primary weapon and taking out larger packs, or closing fabricators doing building damage. That's what those are going to be useful for. Now, your stratagem weapons, we just mentioned your AMR, that can be used to take out chaff and it feels really good, but you might want to save your ammunition for either Hulks or tanks and shooting those vents. By the way, when it comes to Hulks, the AMR feels fantastic to use them against them because these things I think they can one-shot a Hulk's eye if you hit it just right. But even if you're just shooting around the eye, it's only going to take a couple shots before they go down. So the AMR, in my opinion, is like S tier when it comes to putting down, again, those Hulks, which can be very oppressive if you don't get a handle on them, because they can kind of like spiral out of control as far as being like 2 or 3 of them on the map. That can be a pain in the ass. And because we're taking the supply backpack, you can almost treat the AMR like your primary weapon if you really want to. Now, your Eagle airstrikes, I already mentioned a little bit during the stratagem section, but you really want to save these to take out fabricators if you're playing on those higher difficulties. If not, I would just use them to clear out chaff or buildings. They're all going to be really excellent at that. And the same goes for if you're taking one of those orbital barrages. Those are going to be some of the best ways to soften up or even take out some of those bot outposts from a safe distance. But if you're a little bit of a mad lad like myself and you're taking that orbital gas, that's mainly going to be used to do a little bit of crowd control and take out the occasional fabricator every now and then. Alright y'all, that is the loadout, that is the build. If you're a new player, let me know how you're liking the bots. Again, they're my least favorite faction because of how much they can just ragdoll you, which we're getting an armor set with the latest Warbond or the next Warbond that's going to address that a little bit, kind of selling us the solution to a problem. So that's a little odd from the developers, but let me know how you're liking them. Even veteran players, let me know what you're running against the bots, because this loadout here, this is not the only way to deal with them. This is just more like a marksman, a beginner friendly loadout for them. Now when it comes to the next Warbond, the Python Commandos, I just like to call it the Vipers Commandos like 2.0. This I am very excited for because of the primary weapon, the AR. Now I think it's going to be light penetration, but it gets that underbarrel with a grenade launcher. That is going to be a lot of versatility in one weapon. I'm really looking forward to that. Unfortunately, knowing Arrowhead, the ammo economy on it, or at least the clip size, it's going to be no more than 30 rounds. It's already doing light penetration. The ergonomics on it is probably not going to be great either, so I'm just ready for that. But with the grenade launcher attachment, I think it's going to be well worth it. Now when it comes to the Gatling gun, this has been a highly requested stratagem weapon for a long time, so very excited to use that. It looks like you have to stay stationary when using it, but that's not a problem in my book, because in real life, yeah, you don't run around shooting a Gatling gun. Those things just have a lot of kick. I've seen enough YouTube videos about it. And when it comes to the chainsaw sword or the chainsaw melee weapon, not probably going to be using that too much, just because I'm not the biggest fan of melee weapons in this game. But if you like melee weapons, let me know how you feel about the chainsword there. And then we're getting a fire guard dog or flamethrower guard dog. I honestly thought we already had one of these, but no, we have the arc thrower one, and that'll get you kicked from a lot of matches because people don't like to deal with it. I'm sure the flamethrower one will have those moments of, you know, burning up your teammates, but probably not as, I would say, toxic as the arc thrower one. Remember, with those guard dogs, you can recall them manually, so they're not going about killing things. If you have your enemies, or I'd say you have your enemies and your allies both in front of you, that's probably the best time to either recall this flame one coming up, and then the arc thrower. Definitely put those away for those type of situations in general. But alright y'all, that's the video. If you made it this far, thank you very much, and I will see you next time. Peace and take care.